Hi everyone, Kevin McDonald here. Welcome to PPTV. I'm going to be taking over PPTV for the next few weeks, and I'm going to be speaking to a number of the different speakers that are going to be at the 10X Property Super Conference. So for the next few weeks on PPTV, it's all about the 10X Takeover. My first guest is somebody I've wanted to interview for a long time and got a really special opportunity today. It's none other than Mr. Mark Homer himself, one of the co-founders of Progressive. So, hi Mark, how are you?
I'm good, thank you, Kevin. Thank you for inviting me on this special broadcast.
No worries, pleasure to have you on. I know that lots of people in Progressive that come to our events, they get to meet Rob a lot, and Rob's often speaking about you. The other speakers talk about you. I mention you quite a lot in my trainings, but people don't see you that often. And one of the questions people often say to me is, who is Mark Homer? What exactly does he do? What's his role in the business? So I guess it's, who are you? What do you do? What's Mark at Progressive?
Okay, so most of my time, Kevin, is spent doing property deals and developments and running our property business. So, yeah, I mean, you lose track, but I've bought, sold, refurbed somewhere around 500-600 properties, something like that, for ourselves, for investors, whatever. At the moment, I'm developing a lot of commercial buildings into residential buildings.
Okay.
We have a letting agency. We manage about 850 tenants, so I help oversee that as well. And I've been doing that about 15 years. Okay. So anything to do with conversions or developments, or sort of dealing with tenants or capital allowances or tax, all that sort of stuff.
You love that stuff.
That's what I'm doing most of the time. Yeah, right. Yeah.
So why? I mean, I know from listening to lives you've done, and I very you speak live a few years ago now. Why property as the best investment vehicle? So I believe you're a very firm believer that property is the best investment vehicle. Well, why?
I think it is the returns. So for me, things start and finish with return on capital invested. Now, when you go and buy, even if it's just a basic single let, you're renting it out on a monthly basis to a family. You probably borrow 75% of the value the normal investor would, and you put a 25% deposit in. Even if you get a gross yield of maybe 6%, let's say that nets out at, I don't know, let's say before mortgage you're netting 5% or 4, call it 4. If you take that yield and you sort of minus off the mortgage interest, let's say you're paying, I don't know, 2%, something like that at the moment, 2.5%, you might end up with, I don't know, 1.5%, 2%. Doesn't sound like loads, but if you've only put 25% into the deal, you're getting quite a lot of leverage on that, so you can multiply that by 4. Then you're also getting, let's say, annually, maybe 5% capital growth. If you're getting 5% capital growth, that again gets multiplied by 4 because you leveraged, 75% loan to value mortgage. So in very basic terms, on a single let, the cash flow is lower, but you're making more out of the capital that way through leverage. Most of the stuff that I'm doing would be bigger. They're essentially HMOs, but in much bigger buildings with maybe 40, 50. One I'm doing at the moment, I have 150 tenants in it. So the returns, the net return, cash on cash, once it's up and running, very, very, very frequently I'm getting 20, 25, 30%. Could be a lot more, on money that I've left in a deal. Sometimes it can be in the hundreds of percent. Show me another investment. Okay, fine, this is a business. But, passive investments that you'd be doing in the stock market, funds, bonds, things like that, maybe you'll get 5, 6, 7, 8% average capital and income together over the long term. But, that's where I started. I just wanted to find the best investment vehicles. And for me, the amount of money that you can make out of property, the mere mortal, because, you're competing with some local people, and yes, you're competing with some people coming in, but you're not competing with somebody in another country, usually, for a development project. You're not competing with the best brains in London as you would be on the stock market. So the mere mortal on a local level can make money out of property and make really, really good returns. As long as they do it properly, they're diligent, they take it seriously and treat it as a business. So for me, that's where it starts and finishes.
I think as well, stock market, I guess if you buy 100 grand's worth of stock, you get, if you've got 100 grand, you buy 100 grand's worth of stock, you get 100 grand's worth of stock, but you can get 400 grand's worth of property.
Yeah, that is, yes, you could leverage up on the stock market, but it's harder. And, generally speaking, people don't do it as freely. But that is one thing. I think, in addition, the returns are higher if you're developing and obviously adding value, and then you're renting it anyway. But then when you add the leverage in, it's unbeatable. But lots of people don't quite work it out that way, and don't necessarily do it in the right way. So don't buy the right properties, don't follow the right strategy, and end up with poor results and think the IFA is better. Yeah.
So I know you said you're doing big developments, and there's probably people listening thinking, oh, well, I can't do what you're doing. You're doing 150 property developments, but you didn't start with 150 bedroom development as your first deals. You started with single lets, I guess.
Yeah, I did. I just started with small sort of terraced houses that I was buying, refurbishing, remortgaging, stripping the money back, and just kept doing that over and over again, and built an investment portfolio. And then I graduated into bigger HMOs, graduated into pubs, and into developing all different types of buildings. Yeah. So it's a journey, isn't it?
Yeah, learn to walk before you run.
Yeah, it's been a 15-year journey for me. Yeah.
Of that journey, and you've mentioned single lets, HMOs, pubs, commercial stuff. What's your preferred strategy and why?
Well, it's this is very much based on things that are of their time. So 2010, I was doing, looking at, pubs, and, then I got into the office thing when the permitted development rights started. So that was great. Offices got more and more expensive here. So then I sort of continued with the pubs and did a private members club, and then graduated more into retail as the wheels started coming off retail, buying retail units, often putting a retailer on the ground floor and then converting the uppers into residential. So for me, the whole commercial thing is about taking redundant buildings which don't have much use. Cinemas would be another one at the moment. There's a big bowling alley, in our town. They just sit there empty, and nightclubs. So they're sort of the next wave, I think, or there's quite a lot sitting empty here. Pubs have obviously, the need for them has reduced, and people aren't in them as much. A big one at the moment is the restaurants. All the private equity restaurants are shutting. Yeah. The type of buildings that they're in here probably don't work quite so well. But, give them a bit of pain over time, a bit like the retail, they'll become more negotiable. Empty property rates kick in. If there's a big fund miles away that owns it, they don't really know how to redevelop it often. So that creates the opportunity. So, a lot of the direction and the type of buildings that I've been doing are, they're opportunity-led. And that they're of their time. Yeah. So I find the opportunity, and then I move into that for a while. I don't know, the offices, there's still a window there, but I think Labour announced yesterday or the day before that if they get in, they're going to they're going to remove permitted development rights on offices. Who knows? The next election is not till 2022, but Brexit's shown us that anything can happen at the moment. So they're just things to bear in mind.
I keep speaking to people regularly now as well that say they're waiting for the right time, or for a change of government, or for Brexit and all this stuff, and they're always waiting, and 10 years pass by. Yeah. And when people hear now that, permitted development's going to be gone, there'll be some people potentially, and you hear them and they go, we can't do property now, then we've got to wait. What do you say to people that are thinking, when's the right time? What do I do?
Well, the best time is usually now. And, at the moment, there is quite a lot of negativity around Brexit. So you can usually turn that to your advantage with vendors, with deals. Often retailers are probably struggling a little bit more because of that. So that helps. And there can be a lot more opportunities in times like this. The irony is the best time to buy, since I've been conscious in this space, has been 08, 09 into maybe 10, 11, which is when people were most negative, and there were more of them saying that sort of thing to me. The recession, we're all going to die. You look at those properties that we bought back then, they've doubled and tripled.
Yeah.
So, you know, I really believe that, you know, if there's always a good time, you can always get into it as long as the deal's right, you're paying the right money, you're adding the right value. Yeah, we're in the second half of this cycle, so you probably don't want to be extending yourself too far. There will be another recession, but that's always the case. You know, and you're going to pick all that income up in between now and, you know, when the next problem is. Permitted development rights may be removed by Labour, but if you've got an office now and you've got your prior approval in, as soon as you've got it back, and that's it. Then, yeah, and you can then start the works within 3 years. So I'm just telling you stuff that can happen in the future.
And that's only if they get in.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, they may get in. If there was an election tomorrow, they may get in. But who knows? 2022.
Let's not talk politics. We'll see.
No. We'll get out of that. Yeah.
So, yeah. I actually started in property about, you and Rob met in 2006, 2007?
Yes.
I started in property in 2003.
Yeah, that was me, about that in 03. Yeah.
But I did it stupidly and went over 100 grand in debt, and then spent 5 or 6 years thinking that I can't do any more, I've got to stay in my job and all this sort of stuff. And then 2014, the end of 2013, I actually attended the last ever super conference. It was my first introduction to Progressive. Yeah. And I remember sitting at Wembley Stadium and seeing you and Rob up on stage and thinking, shit, I've just been in property for 3 years before these two even met, and now they've got hundreds of properties and I'm in debt. What have I done wrong? Where's it gone wrong? And you've been, for me, getting this into opportunity to interview is amazing, because from 2014 till today, you and Rob have been a huge inspiration to me in terms of turning my life around and building my portfolio to get out of my debt and become financially free. But I guess my question to you is, who's been your inspiration?
Well, there's been a few people. If you look at sort of residential developers and landlords, you know, I think the biggest was probably Andreas Panayotou. And we know Andreas, and, you know, I've done a couple of interviews with him, and he gives us sort of some informal mentorship every now and again. And I think he ended up owning 6,000 to 7,000 residential properties, mainly apartments around London, which he sold. So the guy did well, and he built it himself. You know, he took a load of buildings, he converted them, and then he ended up selling it. So that was pretty cool. You know, pretty amazing. But, you know, if you look in terms of investors, you know, it's maybe a bit of a cliche, but I do think Warren Buffett's great. You know, I love his massively long-term attitude to these things. He stays invested forever, which is my, you know, that's the way I think. He compounds the returns. He sits there reading for hours every day. There are so many bullshitters in this world that come up with all sorts of strategies and all sorts of nonsense, and I just don't feel like he does that. You know, when I watch his, they do a conference every year, Berkshire Hathaway, and you can watch all the interviews with him and Charlie Munger, his business partner, and, you know, you just get a whole load of truths from the pair of them. They just don't give a monkey's, other than just telling you what they think. Right. And I suppose when you're 88, you can. And you know, nearly the richest man in the world, or have been at various points. So, he's really, really inspirational. And I've read a lot around him. Yeah.
So I mentioned there a moment ago that I attended, my first introduction to Progressive was the last super conference you held. Yeah. And obviously this summer, after 6 years, you decided to run another super conference. Yeah. For those that aren't aware, the 10X Property Super Conference, Mark Hummer is going to be one of the main speakers along with Grant Cardone. And the 10X conference is on in London in June, so 7th and 8th of June. I know most people have got their tickets booked. If you've not, you need to have a look at that. For anyone who's not probably got their ticket booked for the super conference yet, Mark, why do you think it's important for people to attend? Well,
you know, all the way through my property journey, you know, over the last 15 years, I have sort of scaled up, moved into different things, because I've learned from other people. I've learned from other people. So I've learned new strategies. I've found different types of buildings that I can move into. I've worked out how to deal with, larger builders and contractors and banks, and, you know, how to deal with the tax. And but 80-90% of it I've learned from other people. At this 10X Super Conference, there's going to be 1,200 delegates there in the room. So there's massive networking opportunities between, all the people in the room and the other delegates. But more than that, obviously there's a series of speakers, including myself and Grant Cardone, who's got a portfolio of nearly $1 billion, which is not insignificant.
It's quite big, yeah.
There's a lot of experience there, and we're all doing different things. There's people doing serviced accommodation, might be doing HMOs. We've got Glenn there who's doing big office conversions into residential, which is slightly different from my strategy. So the experience and the knowledge is very, very deep in each niche. With the different speakers, and obviously you're there, Kevin, with your no money down expertise, and I think there's a lot of value and sort of opportunity there for people, because for people who haven't got a lot of cash, there are ways into this. Yeah. Lease options, maybe doing JVs, and I know you've got a hell of a lot more sort of strategies that are in my mind, because that's what you're doing all day and that's your niche. So. People are going to get a lot out of this, and it's going to replace an income, and lots of people are going to leave work.
And that's the thing, like I said, I was in property 11 years when I attended the Super Conference in 2013, and everything I've learned since, there was about 1,000 people in that room, and I met lifelong friends there, as well as business partners, but everything I've learned since getting to me where I am is as a result of that day. I didn't learn everything that day, but it did change my mindset as much as anything else about what I could do by hearing the stories, meeting the people. So yeah, I totally buy into what you're saying. You're going to be talking there though, so could you give us a little bit of an insight into what you're going to be talking about, what you'll be covering? Yeah,
well, we touched on it earlier a little bit. Lots of things are happening in our economy at the moment. There are a lot of changes, and I'm going to be talking about how we can take advantage of those changes and some of this negativity to make money and develop our own property portfolios. I've got a couple of sort of strategies, lesser known strategies, which I think they've made me a lot of money, which I'll be talking about. And then I'm going to run through a couple of case studies of deals that I'm doing at the moment. I'm going to go into a load of detail. I'm going to do a Q&A. It's going to be a sort of step-by-step instruction manual, as to how to go about doing these sort of bigger deals, and then I'll get grilled on it. So I'm looking forward to it.
So we're open to grill you on anything you like about your deals.
Yeah, that's fine.
Oh yes.
Yeah. I might not answer everything.
I'm going to be on the front row. I've got a list of questions ready. So will you give us when you mentioned a couple of deals, obviously you said you've got this 150 property room development. Yeah. So the deals are based in Peterborough?
Yeah, all my deals are in Peterborough now, yes. Right. We've got properties sort of in some other East Midlands towns, but developments, I just develop in Peterborough, really.
And that's really key for me, because one of the biggest things I learned from Progressive was about investing locally, because I know we teach like not doing scattergun, and I'm probably the biggest scattergunner in the world.
It's okay if you manage them. If you've got great letting agents in those places, it's fine, but you just end up kissing so many frogs until you find a good letting agent. I did
scattergun Europe. I didn't even know the language.
Well, that's what I did from 2003 to sort of 2005.
I couldn't even speak to them.
And I did scattergun Europe and the world, Florida, and it just ended up in a big shower of shit. Excuse me. Yeah.
But what that's it is that now I just invest locally, and I see people in the UK and they're buying property, even if it's the other end of the country, or all over the place in different towns.
Oh, that's yield. That's high yielding. I'm in there. The sun says it. Yeah.
And they spend more on motorway services and food and whatever, trying to get to see the house or never see it. I don't know if it's let or whatever. No. So invest locally.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. Look, your area may not yield well. It may not have the right rent versus the purchase price. It may not be high enough, central London. But if you can maybe travel half an hour, 40 minutes, and then get a nucleus of properties all in the same area, I think that is the way to do it, because then you can get all your refurb guys on the go. You find the good ones, you find the good letting agents who are going to manage it properly, put the right tenants in, make sure the rent comes in, and you just end up with a much easier, better business generally when you get those economies of scale and you learn the local patch. You know the right roads to buy in and not. and you end up learning or meeting and getting to know all the estate agents who are going to pass you all the deals. You go to a new town, you've got to learn all that stuff again.
Yeah. And you need a plumber in every town, an electrician in every town, etc.
And when one leaves, then you're screwed for a while, and you've got to pay your entrance fee. You go into something new, you go into a new town, you pay your entrance fee. You end up paying a lot more and getting a lot worse service, and probably getting down valuations because you don't know the surveyors, or buying on the wrong streets and getting the boilers stripped out until you learn what is right. So why not just keep doing what you worked out was right in the place that you learned in?
Yeah. And then you can scale up from single lets in your town to the multi-lets, HMOs, into the bigger stuff.
It becomes easier and easier, and it's all obvious then.
Yeah, and you know your good streets, you know your bad streets, you know your power team, and people will start to bring you bigger deals, I guess, once you're in one area.
Yeah.
And they get to know you more.
Of course they will. As you buy more and more and you touch more people and it becomes more obvious that you're doing something in a certain area, you will attract deals to you. You'll get incoming, a lot more incoming.
Excellent. So do you think that people who've got a ticket should be really excited just about your talk, never mind the others, and I know you said you're going to touch on two deals, so is there one like really exciting thing, or what are you excited about the conference?
Well, it might be a little bit presumptuous for me to sort of say that everybody's excited and coming just because of me, as much as I might like to think it. But yeah, I think in terms of, finding the right commercial buildings that you can add, you can make millions out of these buildings, and finding the right partners and finding the right finance, I think people are going to get a lot from that, specific talk that I've put together just for this event. I think Grant Cardone's going to be, different, impressive, huge portfolio, loads and loads of knowledge in buying these big sort of condominium, call them resorts, but communities which go into these funds. And there's a load of mindset stuff that he's going to bring. Rob's going to be there. Yeah, I mentioned obviously Glenn's there. Nick's going to be. There's a whole stack of them. So yeah, if I was a delegate, I am excited about it. But I'm getting to speak, so I suppose I would be. But I'll be learning too. I'll be sitting in the audience and listening to talks and learning, from the different, sort of presenters that are there. So, if I was a delegate and I was earlier doors and, I was sort of further back in this journey, I'd be there at 6 a.m. On the front row and taking a load of notes.
I know I'm doing a talk at the conference, but I'm actually panicking about my talk and excited about yours. So it's weird, but as a delegate, you get excited about the talks, and I'm excited about listening to everybody else and kind of worried about my own bit. Yeah. So I go easy on me on my own bit, but it's all the other talks. And the thing is, especially about your talk, is you mentioned there about making millions of pounds from a deal.
Yeah.
But some people go out and they try and do a deal like you're talking about, one of those commercial conversion type deals, and they don't know how to do the numbers, they don't know how to work the deal out, they don't know what sort of detail they should be looking at. They think it's just buy a rundown building, and they end up losing so much money that they get stuck before, they never get started properly.
Yeah.
So for me, that's why I'm excited about it, because I've started to go into more commercial stuff, and knowing I'm always learning. Everyone's always learning. Even at my level, I'm still learning stuff. And I know that of all the talks this week at the conference, yours is probably the one I'm looking forward to the most, because it's the detail, and you're the detail guy of how to do these things so you don't lose money. Because you could make $1 million, but you could lose $1 million.
Easily.
So so you'll go into the real detail of what not to lose, like sort of, you'll answer our questions at least. I've got a question. I've got my questions.
You get your questions out, you fire them away at me.
Nobody else has got time for any questions. I've got a whole list.
Yeah, absolutely, and I'll stand there and you can go into a right load of detail and just drill me on all this stuff.
Okay, so top benefits, sort of top 3 benefits for you. What do you think of the sort of top 3 benefits you'd say to somebody who's thinking of attending the Super Conference? Why should they get there?
So I think property starts and finishes with income. So increasing your income and increasing your cash flow, specific strategies to do that, to get you out of what it is you're not wanting to do, like your job every month. So to replace that income. I think networking with other people who are doing what you want to do, who are like-minded, there's some huge value there. You know, they're going to give you specific ideas, tips, you know, and sort of tricks, and you know, you'll end up sort of doing deals with them, borrowing money from them, and all this other stuff. So, you know, I think that's huge. And then obviously the third one is just how inspirational is it to have, you know, those types of speakers, and we've not even spoken about this sort of secret one that's worth over 250 million from property that Rob's got coming as well.
But some people don't know about that. No, there's a secret speaker. There's another secret speaker that Rob Moore is going to be revealing soon that's also coming to the Super Conference. So Mark doesn't even know who he is.
I don't know who it is. No.
Yeah, so nobody knows.
I don't. So yeah, the inspiration that you're going to get from you know from all of those people is for me, that drives me on and wants me to do more to sort of get, you know, get to that.
People talk about 10x. So how has what would you say property has done to 10x your life, or what's this? What do you see 10x? What does 10x mean to you, and how do you think it's 10x your? Well,
I suppose 10x is maybe different to me than it is for, you know, some of the other people that maybe have followed the 10x, I don't know, model and been to Grant's other seminars. For me, it's sort of absolute commitment. So I still believe in growing in stages, making mistakes at that level before you know, do one. Wait a year, let it show its face, and then do the next one, or you know, do a couple, but don't. But for me, it's absolute commitment. It's no messing around with the small stuff. Yeah, do the small stuff for a bit, but then scale it. Once you're absolutely sure you've tested, you've measured, you've got all the data in, you know, you've got to expand your thinking and really go hard and grow. You know, once you're absolute, you've got that commitment, you know it works, you know the thing is right. Just put your, you know, put your 120% into the thing to make it work.
So basically, get the right knowledge, then back yourself and just go for it. Believe in yourself and put the effort in. So that for me, that's something that's made a big difference for me. Is terms of, is not just, a lot of people think it's when you say put the effort in, is that they've got to work hard. But it's more about working smart as well, isn't it? So
definitely.
You don't need to do 50 hours or 60 hours a week. You just need to do what you do well, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And get into your niche and be the best at that thing. And the money will just, it'll attract towards you. Yeah.
Awesome. So we're coming to the end of that, to be honest. I hope you've really enjoyed the questions with Mark. I've loved it. I've got an insight into what he's going to be talking about at 10X. If you've not got your ticket to the 10X Property Super Conference, if you want to see Grant Cardone live, if you want to meet Mark live, grill him on what he's doing in property, then I guess there's going to be a link on the screen maybe in front of you. If not, we'll put a link below in the comments thread. So get your ticket to the 10X Super Conference. They are pretty much sold out, so you need to be quick as well, by the way. So I read a figure a couple of days ago that 1,254 tickets were sold. Now, Mark said that there's 1,200 people for the limit on the building. They're in arguing and stuff at the moment with the hotel and the management and whatever about how many people can physically get in, because they can put a few seats at the front row and move it closer and have less room off stage and whatever. And they're trying to get around 1,300 seats in if they can. But there's 1,254 tickets sold, and Mark said the capacity is about 1,200. So if you want to get your ticket and you want to be there and you're thinking, I'll wait and decide, you need to get your ticket quickly, get it secured, make sure you're in that list of people, because it is literally hours, if not days, of being completely sold out, and you will be looking for a ticket that won't be available. So make sure you get your ticket secured. There should be a link below this. I look forward to seeing you at the 10X Super Conference. Thank you, Mark, for the interview. Really loved that.
Thank you, Kevin.
I'm really looking forward to your talk, and I'll speak to you all soon.